everything started on a live stream. The young influencer, Valeria Márquez, was suddenly shot in front of thousands of viewers. A moment that shocked the world. If you want to know what was behind this mysterious murder, stay with me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your comment below. Valeria Márquez, a girl whose photos are now only circulating in the news, was once just an ordinary child, born in a relatively small town to a relatively ordinary family, not very rich, not very poor. Her father was a simple worker, and her mother was a housewife. Their home wasn't loud, but there was always a certain melancholy feeling in it. Valeria was a quiet and calm girl from childhood, one of those kids who watch more than they talk. She had a locked diary that no one was allowed to open. It was as if she was hiding something inside from the very beginning. In school, she was neither a troublemaker nor a star student, but teachers said there was a special sadness in her eyes, a sadness whose origin was unknown but was always there. She didn't have many close friends, usually eating and sitting alone, but no one spoke ill of her because she was kind, helpful, and a good listener. However, she never fully opened up. On the streets, no one bothered her, but her mother was always worried. She used to say, "This child keeps too much inside. One day she'll burst." Maybe she was right. Before she was a victim, Valeria Márquez was a little girl who viewed the world through the lens of silence. But no one ever understood the storm that was brewing within that silence. Adolescence for many means passion, rebellion, love, mistakes. For Valeria, however, everything was different. She was still quiet, still watched more than she spoke, but inside, she had a world of words and a world of dreams, regrets, and sometimes anger. When she was 13 or 14, she gradually started to build herself. She was no longer that shy girl who just sat in a corner of the schoolyard. She slowly fell in love with writing. Her diary was filled with poems, dreams, regrets, and sometimes rage. She once told a friend, "One day, I want everyone to know who I was. I don't want to end my life with just silence." This was the first time those around her felt that something was simmering inside Valeria's calm demeanor. She attended a regular high school, neither a school star nor a problem student. She was a student with average grades who, when she looked at you, seemed to want to say something but couldn't or wouldn't. It was at this age that her interest in photography and literature began. She said taking a picture was like locking a moment away forever, moments that would never return. At home, things weren't always ideal. Her father was a cold and distant man. He wasn't close to her and was more like a shadow in Valeria's life than a father. Her mother was always in a state of worry and exhaustion. Valeria dreamed of escaping that house, that city, that life. She wanted to go to a big city, to university, to an independent life, maybe even travel abroad. Her dreams seemed too ambitious for others, but for her, they were the only hope she had. During this time, her first crushes also appeared. A teenage love, a mysterious boyfriend, a half-hearted relationship that proceeded with a lot of secrecy. Many people thought Valeria was still the same quiet girl, but gradually, they began to see another side of her. She wanted to be seen, even if it meant breaking some rules. She started dressing differently, posting strange things on social media, and showing that she wasn't an ordinary girl. But within all those dreams, a small darkness was also growing, a sense of insecurity, a feeling that maybe none of these dreams would ever come true, and maybe this feeling was what later led to the tragedy. Valeria was never a person who fell in love easily, but when she did, she put everything on the line. Love wasn't a game for her. It was a kind of sanctuary, a refuge from the cold home, from the world, from the past, from loneliness. Her first serious relationship started around the age of 17 with a boy named Diego. He was handsome, talkative, and highly confident, the opposite of Valeria herself. Perhaps it was this contrast that attracted her. Diego was excitement for her. He said things Valeria had never heard before. He told her she was special, smart, and that one day she would be a great writer. Those words were like sunshine in the middle of winter for Valeria. But not everything always went well. Diego would get angry quickly and was controlling. Sometimes he would check her messages, sometimes he wouldn't let her go out with anyone. And Valeria would remain silent, maybe because she needed him to be there, maybe because she thought this was the kind of love she had to endure. Their relationship was full of breakups and makeups. Once, Valeria wrote in her diary, "I don't know if I'm in love with him or if I'm just clinging to him because of my loneliness." It was there that it became clear that even she was no longer sure. After Diego, there were other relationships, some serious, some fleeting, but they all had one thing in common. In none of them was Valeria truly happy. Her friends said she was always attracted to people who had a dark side, men who were either unstable, mysterious, or even dangerous. Maybe it was because she had a dark part of herself that only they could understand. In one of her relationships, the boy once threatened to destroy her life if she left him. Valeria didn't tell anyone. She just wrote in her diary, "Sometimes you're afraid of the person you love. Isn't this also a kind of love?" She was so caught up in contradictory feelings that she no longer knew what was right and what was wrong. Some days she was in love. Some days she would look at herself in the mirror and ask, "Who am I in this relationship?" What's clear is that Valeria never had a healthy, safe relationship. There was always some kind of threat, control, or feeling of weakness in them. And this chain of complicated relationships pushed her further and further away from herself. Perhaps somewhere along this path, Valeria not only gave her heart but also a part of herself to the wrong person, and maybe one of these relationships was the main key to her murder. A person doesn't always fall into trouble all at once. Sometimes you just take one wrong step, then another, until you realize you're standing in a place where there's no turning back. Valeria went down exactly this path. She was always struggling with herself. She wanted to be independent, to live her own life, but every time something would hold her back, a dependency, a fear, a person. After her last serious relationship, Valeria began to change. It was as if she was tired of pretending to be okay. Her Instagram posts changed. The captions became sharper, the photos bolder. Her gaze lacked something, or perhaps had too much of something. A kind of distrust of the world. She got a part-time job at a cafe, but she spent most of her time with people who were nocturnal, people who lived for nightlife, parties, short relationships, and long but meaningless conversations. Her old friends said she was unrecognizable. She was seen a few times with people who looked like trouble from a distance. One of them was an older man with an expensive car, a suspicious look, and a past that no one really knew. One night, Valeria returned from a party around 3 a.m. Neighbors said she was talking loudly as if she was arguing with someone. But when her mother asked what was wrong, she just said, "Nothing. I just let the wrong person into my life." This sentence later became the key phrase in the case. After that night, everything began to change. Her face looked more tired. She was online less often. She even started being late for work or not showing up at all. It was as if something was eating away at her mind. A close friend once asked her, "What's wrong? Why are you like this?" She just gave a bitter smile and said, "Sometimes you end up in a place you don't even understand how you got to." The truth is that Valeria herself might not have known what a dangerous game she had gotten into. Maybe she thought she was in control, or maybe she knew but couldn't go back. The steps she took might have looked small from the outside, but behind each step was a decision, a fear, a hope, an exhaustion. And all of this together was pulling her to the edge of a cliff that was just one step away from death. In the last days of her life, something was happening. In those days, something about Valeria's behavior was strange. It was as if she felt something was approaching, something she should be afraid of. On the morning of May 13, 2023, Valeria Márquez, the 23-year-old Mexican influencer, was on a TikTok live stream in her beauty salon in Zapopan, Jalisco. Moments before the incident, she expressed concern about receiving an expensive gift from an anonymous person, saying, "They wanted to take me, or I don't know." I'm worried." That same day, a masked man and another person on a motorcycle came to Valeria's beauty salon, claiming they had an expensive gift for her. When Valeria was in the salon, a man entered, confirmed her identity, and then shot her. The incident occurred during the live TikTok stream, causing great shock and sorrow among her followers and the community. Rumors have emerged about Valeria's connection to a leader of the Jalisco New Generation cartel, but his identity and role have not been confirmed. This tragic incident once again drew attention to the crisis of violence against women in Mexico. It is hoped that legal follow-ups and increased public awareness will prevent the repetition of such tragedies. The scenes of Valeria's murder didn't just happen in a beauty salon. They were broadcast to millions of people on TikTok and then all over the internet. People were shocked, not just because a young girl was killed in the middle of a live stream, but because Mexico had lost another woman, this time in front of everyone's eyes. The first reactions were full of sadness and disbelief. Thousands of comments were written under Valeria's videos and posts. "This is unbelievable. How long will these things keep happening? Your voice was not heard." These were some of the comments written under her posts, but after the wave of grief, a wave of anger arrived. Many blamed the Mexican police, questioning how, in a country with so much violence against women, an influencer with death threats was left alone, even after she herself said she was worried about a suspicious gift. But the media headlines read, "Live murder on TikTok, anger against women in front of the world." She warned them, but no one listened. On social media, hashtags like Justicia para Valeria, Justice for Valeria trended again. Women's rights activists took to the streets, gathered, and shouted. But alongside all these reactions, some media outlets began to dig into Valeria's past. Was she connected to the cartels? Was she part of a hidden story herself? This approach caused a second wave of protest. Why are you blaming the victim? Why are you trying to tarnish a young girl's life instead of looking for the killer? Valeria might have been alone at the moment she died, but the sound of her death this time was not lost in silence. This time, the world saw, heard, and perhaps for the first time, a serious step was taken. After that tragic moment, when hundreds of thousands of people saw the murder scene, all eyes turned to the police and the official investigation. But many questions still remained unanswered. First, who was the masked man who came to the beauty salon and shot Valeria with high precision? Was he just a hired killer, or was there a bigger plan behind this murder? The Mexican police announced that they had several suspects under surveillance but did not release many details. Some unofficial sources reported the likely involvement of drug cartels, especially the Jalisco New Generation cartel. One of the hypotheses was that Valeria might have been unintentionally involved in a power struggle between criminal groups, or that she might have had prior threats that had not reached the security forces. However, Valeria's family and close friends denied these situations and said she was just a simple girl who wanted to stand on her own 2 feet and become famous, nothing more. Rumors also emerged about previous threats and frightening messages to her on social media, which showed that Valeria had been feeling insecure for a few weeks before her death. But the most important question is, why was she shot right at the moment she was talking to thousands of people on a live stream? Did the killer use this opportunity to show his power? The investigations are still ongoing, but this tragic murder once again showed what dangers and darkness lie behind the beautiful and glamorous world of social media. The case is still open, and the world is waiting for answers that may or may not come soon. The murder of Valeria Márquez, the young Mexican influencer, was not just a tragic incident, but a symbol of the pain and suffering of thousands of women who live in the shadow of violence every day. Valeria, who wanted to be seen for her beauty and art, was suddenly, at the age of 23 and in front of millions of people, a victim of a cruelty that perhaps no one expected. This case showed that no one, not even famous and popular people on social media, is immune to violence and threats. Her murder was a warning to society and officials that they must more seriously address the safety of women and issues related to gender-based violence. The people of Mexico and the world will not forget this incident because Valeria's voice, even after her death, remains a voice for the fight for justice and change. It is hoped that this tragic story will lead to the enactment of stricter laws and a judicial system that more seriously supports victims. Valeria Márquez, with her short and sudden life, reminded everyone that the safety and respect for women's rights must be a priority for everyone. And most importantly, we must learn that just seeing is not enough. We must hear, believe, and act.